Hey dev team, welcome back to Flutter with Drag. In this episode what I want to do is tidy up this payment test page we've got here and actually convert it into some sort of a checkout. And to do that I'm going to start off by extracting these individual sort of widgets into their own set of files. So I'm going to come over to our widgets folder that we already have. Let's close some stuff up. So we've got a widgets folder. I'm going to make a subfolder in here called cart because these are all going to be related to the cart. And we're going to have a few widgets here. We're going to have an add item button. I'm just going to create the files now. We're going to have a cart, lowercase, cart item button, cart. Let's call this cart button. Call that cart button. Yep. And we're going to have a checkout button. Okay. So it's all coming from our payment test, and I'd selected there the first one. This is the button at the bottom of our payments test that starts the payment process. So this is our checkout button. So I'm going to control dot that and extract that to its own widget. And would you know it, my things aren't working again. One moment. Okay, don't know what that was about. Here we go. We can now extract this as a widget to a checkout button widget, and that will create the checkout button just below it, and I'm going to cut it out of there and paste it into our new checkout button file. There's going to be some widgets we need to import here, so material, our block, and Flutter block, and that should be good. So that's our checkout button. I'm also in our cart folder. I'm going to create a index.dart, a barrel file. This is going to export all these files. So we're going to export our checkout button, we're going to export our cart button, and we're going to export our add item button. That just means we'll have one import. So coming back to payment test, we can now import here, and if we import from the index file, then that will be the one import we need to do. Okay. Next one is going to be these text buttons that we've got, and these are going to be our add product buttons. So let's do the same. No code actions. There we go. Extract widget, and I'm going to call this add item to cart button. Okay, now what we've done here is we've added the item to the cart, but we've got a problem in that I don't want the same item, so we're going to have to pass this in. So let's pass in here a final cart item, which will be a cart item, and that's going to be required because without a cart item there's no point in adding something to the cart. So we'll take this cart item that we've got in here, I'm going to cut it out of there and come back up to where we've got it here and add it in. Cart item, paste, and it will then pass that through. I'm going to make another change there in a minute, but we'll come back to that. Secondly, we've got this text here, add 2 t-shirts. Well, first of all, let's put in here the cart item. And we've got an error message because it can't be a const. Let's just take that const out. What are we going to put here? Well, we could send in another text as well, but actually we may want this to be something other than a text. We may want this to be an icon, something else. So I'm actually going to also take in here a child widget, which will be this. So we're going to have a final widget, which I'm going to call private child. And when we bring it in, I'm not going to require it. It'll be optional. But here it's not private. And then in our initializer, what I'm going to say is our private child is going to equal child. But if that is null, then it's going to equal the text of the cart item name. And again, we need to get rid of the const stuff here now. So if we pass in a child widget, then our private child will become that. And if we don't, our private child will become the text with the name of the item that's in the cart. And so down here, instead of putting the text, we just have our private child. Okay, we've got an error. What's that? That's this const here. That can't be a const anymore. So that should still work. And as you can see, that has now changed to t-shirt because it's taking the name from the t-shirt. Okay, now before I do the rest, I want to move these cart items. I made a mistake in the last video. You might have spotted it, although I did fix it before I uploaded the code. And that is the price of the t-shirt I put in the server code was £15.50 rather than £25.50. There's always something to be said within programming of making sure there's always one source of truth, and we're breaking that a little bit. It would probably be better to get this information out of a database, both on this end and the server end, but we just need to be a little bit wary. But to make life easier, I'm going to move all these cart items into our constants folder, file, sorry, so that we can keep track of them in one place. So we're going to have here a class called app products, and in here we're going to have a static const, and then I'm going to copy them across. So the first one here is t-shirt 1, so I'm going to copy the cart item, except I'm actually going to cut it, and in here this is going to be t-shirt 1, and that's going to equal that cart item. We just need to import that model so it knows what it is, and that's good. So now over here we can just say app products t-shirt 1. So that's adding that. So let's cut this one out. This is going to be our cap one, X. So static const cap one equals that. And then our event one, just cut that cart item out there. And back over here, static const event one equals that. Okay, so that's all our products in one place, which means we can now delete these text buttons that we've got there and just copy this 2 more times, 1, 2, and so we're going to have event 1 there and cap 1 there. Okay, so our cart should still work. We can still add our events, our baseball cap and our t-shirt, and that's all good. Okay, having done that, we can now cut this and come over to our add item button, paste that in and get our imports taken care of. So we've got a few here, cart item and our block. So we'll need both the Flutter block and the cart block. Okay, so that's that one done. That's the checkout button done. And then finally this cart button, well, that is this thing up here which tells us how many items we've got in the cart. So I'm going to call this checkout button. It's not the checkout, but I'm going to call this the cart button. Yeah. So we're going to extract this widget, call this cart button for want of a better name. Let's put it down at the bottom, and again we're just going to cut that all out and put it into our cart button and import. Okay, so finally in here we can get rid of this comment. That's not needed anymore. Let's have a look up here. We don't need cart item, apparently. We don't need this payment info. And now this is no longer needs to be a stateful widget. We only did that while we were testing. So I'm going to change this to a stateless widget, which means we can just simply remove the state by removing those 4 lines there, or those 3 lines in the space. And that's all you need to do to convert a stateful widget into a stateless widget, as long as there's no stateful stuff going on. Okay, if you do ever convert stateless to stateful or vice versa, just make sure you do a full restart of the app. Right, everything should still be working, which it is. So next I want to look at this icon. It's, we need to do something with it. And I think what we're going to do is turn it into a better looking button. So at the moment we've just got this text string. Okay, so first of all, I need this to be a button. So let's change this by wrapping it with a gesture detector. That will allow us to detect any gestures. And I also want the child of this to be mainly an icon, but we also need the text. So I'm going to wrap this with a column and then change the column quickly to a stack. In the stack, the first thing I'm going to put is an icon. So I'm going to have an icon, icons.shopping cart. I think we've got a shopping basket, shopping cart rounded, maybe something like that. How does that look? Yeah, I think we'll go with that one. Okay, now we want the stack to have an alignment of center. I want everything to be centered in it mostly, and I'm also going to change the fit to stack fit to stack fit loose. Okay, so the text, where is the text? Well, it is there. It's just the number 1 is in white and it's on a white icon. So I'm going to wrap this text into a container, and we're going to put a decoration of box decoration on here. And let's just start with a not a background, a color of colors.red. And there we are, there's our node 0. We want to pad that out a little bit. So let's put in here some padding padding const edge inset all. Let's try 4. We don't need much padding. Okay. And we need the size of the text to be a lot smaller. So we'll put style, text style, font size. This is going to be really small, but it's only there as a sort of indication. 8. Okay. And then finally in our box decoration, let's change the shape of our box to box shape circle. And I think that'll do. Okay. However, we don't want it centered like that, so I'm going to wrap this container with a position element, and we're going to set the start off with the bottom to 0 and the right to 0 and see where that takes us. Yeah. Okay, we'll go with that for now. It'll do. We might play with that a little bit more in the future. Okay. What do we want to happen when that gets clicked on? Well, we want it to come to our checkout page, but we haven't got a checkout page yet. So let's turn our payment test page into a checkout. I'm going to do that by hitting F2 on there and changing that to checkout screen. Okay, so that will change it there and there and in all the other places where it is. And there's only one place where it is currently, and that's in the main.dart where we've got it there. We're calling out checkout screen. So let's give it a name of checkout there and checkout here. Now we can actually comment this out now and put in our home again. So if we save that and refresh our app, we should come back to our initial app screen. We haven't seen that for a while, but it's back. And then if we come to our screen, for that screen, the home screen, and come up to the scaffold, we already have an icon button for the profile. So we're going to add in here our cart button as well. Okay, now because of the padding, that's taken that 0 right down there. I don't like that. So let's come back to our cart button and change the bottom to 10. Let's move that up a bit more. Okay. Then within our gesture detector, we need an on tap. And the on tap is going to be a function which is simply navigator dot push named, and the route name is the route name that we've just given it, checkout. So if we save that and click on this, we should get back to our payment test page. Okay, we'll have to change the title there, but we'll do that in a moment. However, we do have a problem here that if we click on that and then click on that and then click on that, it's going to continually push on a new page, and we don't want that. So we need the ability within our cart button to make sure that that navigation is disabled. So I'm going to put in here final disable nav, which is going to be of type boolean. And up here in the cart button, we're going to say this disabled nav equals false. So by default, disabled nav is going to be false. And then here we're going to say if not disabled nav. So if we haven't disabled the nav, then we're going to push the checkout, otherwise we'll do nothing. Okay, we'll need a hot restart for that in a moment. Let's come back to payment test and just finish it off. So instead of payment test, we'll call this checkout for now. And we've got this padding here. I think we just want to change this padding to only right, so that will position it correctly on that page. So I'm going to save that, do a restart of the app. And now if we click on our cart button, yeah, we get to our checkout page and it still takes us further. That's because our cart button, we need to put in here, disable nav true on the checkout screen. So if that icon is showing on the checkout screen, which it is now, it doesn't go any further. But if it's showing on any other screen, it'll take us to the checkout screen. Okay, that's the nav button done. Does the number work? Let's stick some products in the cart, and that looks to be working just fine. Okay, next thing I want to do is I want to show the total of all the products in the cart so that we know how much we're going to cost us when we click the checkout button. So let's come to our block, because we're going to need to store that within our block. And within our block state, we've already got the number of items in cart. I'm going to have a final double cart total price. That is going to be required, this cart total price, and we need to see if my copy with generator is going to work. It is. So we just put this line in and this line, so we have a copy with, and we need to add it here, cart total price, to our override. Okay, that's going to break our block because we're not calculating it. So in the default, in our super, we're going to have a cart total price is going to be 0 when it starts off, nothing in the cart. But we need to now pass it whenever we do this total items in list. Now we've already got this list going round all the items, so I'm going to be a little bit naughty here, and I'm going to change this function to return two things. We're going to have the count, and we're going to have the total, which is going to equal 0. So as it goes around the list of items, we're going to add the quantity to the count, but to the total we're going to add the let's do it, item price multiplied by the item quantity, and then we need to return both the count and the total. Well, how do we do that? Well, there's a few ways, but a naughty way is to send it back as a list. So instead of returning an int, we're going to say return, no brackets there, return a list. Now here, if the items are empty, we also need to return a list, and that's going to be the first element is going to be the number of items in the cart, the count, and the second item is going to be the total. Okay, now with that we need to use that over here, so we'll do final totals equals total items in list items, so we get a totals out of it. Instead of calling it there, we will say the first element, at least the 0th element, will be the number of items in cart, and the cart total price will be the totals 1, the second element. And if we copy that, then all we need to do is paste those two lines in everywhere we have this emit state copy with total items in list. I think it's just the 3 of those there. Okay, change the state there, so let's do a hot restart. And let's come to our page and let's add a few items. Okay, and I want this checkout total to appear on the checkout button. So let's come to our widget checkout button, and very simply in here I'm going to add in the string state.cart total price. Can't be a constant anymore, so take the const out, and if we save that, we now have a whacking great big number there, but we can fix that like we've done before and just do toString as fixed 2 decimal places, and that will sort that out. We should also put in the currency as well, which in my case is pound. Okay, so that should update and work and leave us with the correct price. Fabulous. This is getting on well. So we can now use this button sort of anywhere we want within the app. So for example, on our app screen, we could, for example, have a purchase button there. So if we come to our app screen, which is going to be, oh blimey, let's find this now, screens, event screen, event screen. So here we're returning the event details. If we change that center to be column, like so, and we'll just do main access size minimum, and then in here we could put in an add item to cart button, and in here it's going to be the product, app product event 1. Save that. So now we've got a button to do that, and if we want the app bar to show up on here, or the checkout button to show up on here in the scaffold in the app bar, we can put it into our actions, and we will say cart button, and we get our cart button. Don't want it quite so close to the edge, we could wrap it in size, could wrap it in padding, or we could just put a width size box there just to push it off the edge. So our cart should work from here. If we click event 1 to add to our cart here, it indeed adds it to our cart, and if we click on it, it takes us to the checkout with that item in. We can come back to our main page and it's there. We can add a baseball cap and take out an event, add a t-shirt, or add 2 t-shirts even, and that's working well. We've now got everything split off. Okay, I'm just going to close down all these files now that I've got open, because the final step is I just want to rename this payment test page here. I'm going to hit F2 and rename this to checkout. That makes more sense. Do I want to refactor it? Yes, I do. And that should change it everywhere. But in our pages, we should have, do we not have a barrel file in our pages? Yes, we do. There we go. So we're going to add this to our export checkout.dart. Okay, and make sure that is imported. So we can take that out of there. We because we're already importing the index. Save, do a hard restart, and that's that working. So I think that's got us to a good position now. Obviously on the checkout page we will be removing these, and these will be going on different pages. We'll smarten up the button and do various bits there. But I think in the next episode what I want to do is concentrate on this page and get this page working, including the ability to buy that event if it's a an add-on event, and go from there. But I think we'll leave it there for this one. So folks, if you enjoyed, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It does help me out, and we'll see you next time. Until then, take care. Bye now.